Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 244 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight or today or this morning, whenever it might be when you watch this, as we are doing a rare taped episode. We have so many great Derby preps and big races and big race cards to talk about this weekend that we possibly couldn't do as many live shows as we wanted. We're all going to be covering, and you already might have watched our coverage of the Wood Memorial Pick 5 and the Keeneland All Stakes Pick 5 for Bluegrass Day, but we need to cover Santa Anita. We need to give some respect for a fantastic card at Santa Anita on Saturday. We're going to be discussing 4 graded stake races. It's Santa Anita Derby Day. It's going to be a fantastic card. We're going to cover it for you right here on this podcast, episode 144. You can see my Twitter handle there on the name tag at HKravitz. And scrolling on the bottom of the screen, you'll see my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Of course, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor as well. Please make sure you subscribe. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers, and we've been getting a ton of views on our shows. So we know there's a lot of you that are watching, and we thank you so much. But please hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate that. It tells the YouTube algorithm that this is a fantastic show, and it sends horse racing fans to our channel. It helps us with revenue, with advertising, with just a whole bunch of things. So we'd really appreciate it if you smash that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen if you've not done that. It costs you absolutely nothing. Also hit that notification bell so that you know when new content will arise and you won't miss any shows. And then, of course, smash that like button as well. We'd really appreciate that. We've got a lot of information down below the video player with power picks and promotions and information about Bettin and Boozin, which is our show on Wednesdays with host Kyle Roscoe. Anyway, check below the video player for all information, and we're going to have more information for you if you don't know already on the Keeneland Saturday Bluegrass show and the Wood Memorial show for Aqueduct, episodes 245 and 246. Check those out on our YouTube channel. All right, let's get started. We've got 4 big rated stake races to talk about, and I can't think of anyone better to help me with this, other than Pete Visco, of course, than our fantastic journalist from the Saratoga Special, and also, of course, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul, wake up. Paul, sorry, it's a little bit late as we're taping
sorry,
here.
Folks. Howard has us working 24/7 this week. Sorry, folks.
It's 10:30 Eastern time as we are. Paul, I'm sorry to wake you up from your.
No, that's sleep. Okay. This is usually I wake up in the chair right around this time, Howard. So I'm good. I'm good. No, right. I'm good. It's a great slate on Saturday to look forward to.
It sure is. Well, let's just jump right in because we don't want to keep you too much past your bedtime, Paul. Now, we usually cover, pick 5 sequences, of course, on this show, as you well know, and as the viewers know. The way they laid out the races at Santa Anita Saturday, and it just came out today, they didn't put the stake races in succession. I don't know if that's a TV situation. I think the Santa Anita Derby, Paul, is a TV situation. They had to bring that early, I'm assuming. They wanted to have a big race before that, I would guess. I don't know. They have some nice state-bred races at all. Also, it's a very nice card. But because the races, the way they're laid out, we're just going to cover the 4 graded stake races here on this podcast, races 5, 6, 10, and 11. So let's jump right in, Paul. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our banner with our picks. Now, everyone's going to see Pete Visco's picks also. He might actually be joining us. We'll see. But he may not. We don't know. But I do have Pete Visco's picks as well, his top 3. So there's his picks. Let me go and bring on the screen of the Equibase entries. There they are. And let's just jump right in right away. The first graded stake race, Paul, of the day at Santa Anita this Saturday is race 5. It's the Charles Whittingham Stakes. What a trainer. The Bald Eagle, presented by FanDuel TV. It's a grade 2. The post time you can see on the top of the screen there is about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going 1.25 miles on the turf, $200,000 in the kitty, 4-year-olds and up. You can see it's a pretty small field right there. Now, we don't have morning lines as of this taping. So, of course, when most of you will be watching this at home, unless you watch this Thursday, during the day, probably before, mid-afternoon, most of you at home will know the morning lines. We do not. So consider that an advantage, disadvantage, whatever. But this is a field of 7. Paul, I'm going to guess the morning line favorite's going to be the number 7 Gold Phoenix for D'Amato and Kimura. I can see you shaking your head also. But we are both, as you can see on the screen, can go with a horse that the other D'Amato, a horse I've chased a lot. I have to say I've been more wrong than I've been right. But, Paul, I like the spot also for number 6, Master of Foxhounds, for D'Amato, of course, and Rispoli. What is it you like about this one?
Well, I like that he's a horse for course. You look at his Santa Anita, he's 8 for 9 on the board, 2 wins out of 9, 3 seconds, 3/3. I also like the fact, this is a real marathon, as turf marathons go, 1.25 miles on the turf. And he, while you look at his running lines and you might say, well, geez, this horse tends to get out finished, but the distance is it's a little bit of a different thing, and we'll talk about that when we get to the 2, who I think a few of us picked on. We all picked on the board. You and I picked on the board. I just think that the race flow sets up for him, Howard. I think the 7 doesn't break at all. I think Rispoli, who's riding fairly well, is going to get a really good trip. And the horses. Just look at his lines. He runs nothing but graded stakes. He's been doing that pretty much for a year. I guess that might be the only concern. He's been in nothing but graded stakes since last April 30th, so coming up on a year. But yeah, I think he really fits here. He has the only triple-digit buyer I'm seeing on this page anyway. I think he runs back up into the high 90s, around 100. He's right on the wire here.
Of course, we're not live here during this taping, so we do not have comments, of course, but we need your help. Paul, we need the help from the viewers. Please put any comments you have about what you hear below the video player. Again, below the video player, we'd love to see 50, 100 comments, anything about any of the races we're talking about. Maybe you can throw out your top 4 or top 3 in each of these 4 races. We have a special. We're not doing a pick 4 or pick 5. We have a special prediction bet that we're coming at the end. So we want your opinions, folks, below the video player. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Paul, I have nothing to add. I will say, Rispoli seems to get along with this horse very well. I like that Rispoli's back. You see his 2 efforts, were his last 2 very good efforts, where he won and then had a tough loss to Prince Obama on February 5th in the San Marcos. But there's not a lot of speed in this race. And this is we've seen this horse run a lot, Paul. This horse can get a little bit rank, a little headstrong. He's not the easiest horse to ride. Rispoli's got nice, soft hands. There's not a lot of speed. I think he'll be on the lead in this race. And I really see no reason why he can win. I'm going to guess he's, 3-1 morning line? Somewhere around there, Paul, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Guess on that?
I do agree with you on the 7 being the favorite, because Howard, if you take out the Breeders' Cup turf, the 7 there's no bad races on his page.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been a model of consistency. So I do think the 7. Yeah, I would say this, because there's other horses in here who'll take some money. Dicey Mochara is another very consistent horse who's going to take some money.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 7, if you don't mind, Paul.
I think that's
we'll go to Dicey Mochara. So
yeah.
Gold Phoenix will be the favorite, but it's not like he blows away the competition when he wins. I mean, wins by a neck, wins by a head. He placed it close to the best. He's a nice horse. I don't think either one of us liked him in the Frankie Kilroe Mile, and he won. He surprised us 11-1. Second off the layoff, I have a feeling it's hard for me to believe that he's absolutely cranked for this effort. He can win, Paul, but I mean, do you really want to take a low price on a horse that doesn't win that often, and when he wins, it's by a neck and a head?
Howard, I look at the 7 and we'll talk about the 2 and
Yeah.
we've talked about this dynamic on the show before, and I think it's important. There's more than what meets the eye with the PPs. You look at this horse, the 7, and you figure, well, certainly the more distance, the better, because he looks like a big closer. But then you look at that John Henry turf race, the Grade 2 at Santa Anita, where he runs kind of evenly, doesn't have a really good closing kick. And then the last time at a mile, he explodes down the stretch. So sometimes those big closes, Howard, those one-run closes, it's more effective actually at a shorter distance. And I think the thing applies with Dicey Mochara in the 2. You look
Let's
at
talk.
same race.
I want to show the replay of the San Marcos because I think this is an important replay to watch. Dicey Mochara faced a few in here, and we'll show the replay. Dicey Mochara is going to be the 7 in this race, as you can see on the screen. Let me go full screen. Dicey Mochara will be the 7. Master of Foxhounds, the horse we like on top in this race, is the 2. And Opry, or I think it's pronounced Opry, is the 1 on Saturday. So again, the 2, 3, and 7 are all coming back, and we're not going to watch the whole thing, but we do need to watch the very start, because Dicey Mochara right here, and I don't think this should be understated to me. He doesn't have trouble, but he's pretty wide on this first turn. And of course, it's the same distance, that 1.25 miles. You can see, I mean, the jock's trying to get over. He couldn't. Right here in the teal is Master of Foxhounds. Here's Dicey Mochara. I don't know how many lengths this is, Paul, but I mean, look, he's getting pushed out pretty far, and he's really not able to tuck in until, right about here. So you're talking about here and here. I mean, that's got to be, I don't know, a length and a half, 2, 3 lengths. That's got to count for something, right, Paul?
Yeah, and this is, we talked about the distance, Howard, and I'm glad you showed this, because this is going to start at the same spot. That 1.25 miles, the turn really is pretty much right away. So when you end up that wide out of the gate, like Dicey Mochara did, there's no time to compensate. You are going to get hung wide in the turn. Now, the good news is, you have 1.16 miles left to run. So there is time. But I do agree with you. That was a wide trip. I just think, again, the way the race looks on paper, you mentioned the speed, the pace of the race. I don't think it's that fast. That's why I landed on the 6, I think, as you did. I just think the 6 has a chance to really control that pace.
So let's go ahead. So let's finish off this replay, and then we'll move on to the next race. Here's Master of Foxhounds right here. Number 3, it's a little bit hard to see, but he's on the inside, is Opry, who got a dream, Paul. A dream trip all the way around. He also got a perfect trip. Now, you're wondering, where's Dicey Mochara? He's outside of this horse, the 8. He's you can see it's hard to see by the chiclet, but he's sort of in between horses like the whole stretch, Paul, and never looked like either the jock didn't ask as much because he couldn't, or the horse wouldn't give as much. I don't know. I know Pete makes fun of me a little bit with these claustrophobic trips, but I think this is an example of what I don't like when a horse is in between. You see, Dicey Mochara is right here. Okay, he's got some run. He doesn't really steady, but see, okay, the jock is asking here, but now from here, he's like hand riding. I don't know if the horse doesn't want to be in between, or he just doesn't have the horse, or, I mean, he is moving up a little bit. He finally finds a seam there and rolls on. It's hard to say, but again, here's Master Foxhounds, here's Opry, here's Dicey Mochara. So, Paul, if you take the first turn into consideration, and then you take perhaps a little bit and tighten the stretch, tell me one reason why Dicey Mochara is not as good, if not better, than both of these, and he's going to be 3 times the price on Saturday.
Yeah, it was odd. It almost looked like the jock, mid-stretch thought, okay, I'm not, I got too much traffic. I'm just going to ride him out. Yeah, but then, then he shows the last couple of 100 yards, he shows a pretty good turn of foot. So, I'm all in it. I'll tell you what, and I agree he got a good trip, but I'll be using this Opry as a price, because I think he gets a good trip again. And it's the second time Tatore's had a chance to ride him again. And I think he is going to be a decent price, just because people are going to look at the PPs, and the 2 we talked about, nothing but graded stakes. The 6, nothing but graded stakes. The 7, nothing but graded stakes. I mean, the 7's not going to, and the 1's not going to be 20 to 1, but I think he's going to be up in that, approaching double digits range, 7, 8 maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna use this as people should also know, if you're playing horizontally, as you and I have been known to do
Once in a while.
once every lunar eclipse. Um, this will be the last race of the early pick five. So
Yes.
hopefully this will help you out a little bit. But if I were alive into this pick five, Howard, I'd want to have this one like as a C, in case I were alive to the A's, because you really wanted Tory to pay $20 and knock you out of a 5-digit pick five.
No,
That doesn't end your Saturday well.
Yeah, and just it is the Tory. But the other thing I just want to, and we're going to move on. You see, Dyson Morchara. I mean, look, he lost the Gold Phoenix by half a length at Del Mar. Master Foxhounds by a neck. We just watched the last replay where he lost by a length with some trouble. I hope JJ Hernandez puts Dyson Morchara into the game a little bit. Like, just ask a little bit. And I don't want this horse. I want him like mid-pack at worst. Sort of getting the same trip that Opry got in that race that we just showed. But maybe I think he's better than Opry. So anyway, Paul, it's Gold Phoenix. The D'Amatos are going to be the horses to beat. I don't think either one of them are infallible. I think one of those can definitely be beat. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's go on to race 6, Paul. Now, race 6 is the big one. You can see on the bottom of the screen. And wow, I guess it's a 3-horse race. Apparently, we think there's only 3 horses in the race. Of course, that's not true. It's a relatively decent sized field. So let's take a look at it. Here it is. It's the Run Happy Santa Anita Derby. It's the feature race of the day, Paul. It's one of the feature races of the entire meet, probably along with the Big Cap. Of course, it's a grade 1. This is a 100-point Kentucky Derby prep. 100 points to the winner, 40 for second, 30 for third, etc. Post time's about 5:30. This is a field of 9. I feel pretty confident saying the Moorline favorite will be number 5, Practical Move for Yachtine and Vasquez. Yachtine also has National Treasure in here also. Now, Paul, we talked about this on Monday. Originally, I think we all thought before this racing Triple Crown, prep season, is that 30 points would get you in or close. I don't think 30 points is getting you in. If you want to go to the Kentucky Derby and you have no points at all, you're going to have to finish first or second in this race because it looks like it's going to be closer to 40. And, Paul, I got to say, even 40 points might not guarantee you getting in. So whatever the connections may be, there we go. See, I kept Paul up too late. You're going to need probably at least 40 points to get into the Derby. So, Paul, you are going with Go Rocket Ride. This is a very fast animal who has big upside for Mandela and Flavian Pratt. Mandela has quite a few horses actually in these stake races. He might be primed for a big day. Let me go to the PPs. We know what Go Rocket Ride wants to do, Paul, and that is probably go to the lead and wire the field. The only problem I see is that I think there's actually a decent amount of early pace in this race.
Yeah, I was all over this horse last time, and I thought he ran really well. And I think you used the key word, Howard, upside. This may remind you of another horse we've been following who's improving and still learning. Very different type of profile, but
so let me bring up some numbers, Paul. So Practical Move. Let me back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Practical Move is the 3 right here. Go Rocket sitting a perfect trip again. Go Rocket Ride also sitting a nice trip right here. And then you got Skinner, who's the 10 right there, who's going to be making a late run. Now, before I show the rest of this, Paul, I do want to mention, whoops, sorry, I didn't want to do that. I do want to mention the middle quarter. You see the half, you see the time in the top right of the screen there. That half was 47.12. The first quarter was 23-1. They got a 24-second second quarter. I consider that relatively slow. According to every measure, this race favored speed. I want to mention that before we move on. So according to the chart and most people you listen to that I respect, this race favored speed. The second quarter is 24 seconds. I just want to bring that up. I'll let you talk about the final end of the race there again. Go Rocket Ride is sitting comfortably on the outside. The 8, here's Practical Move, who's going to win the race. And then the number 10 here is Skinner. Paul, go ahead and take it from here.
Yeah, so Skinner does close. I mean, both, and you could see the reason I think Go Rocket Ride. Look at the jock on Go Rocket Ride, and look at the jock on Practical Move. Go Rocket Ride is under a drive from middle of the turn on, and Practical Move really hadn't been asked. And I'm thinking here that once Practical Move pulls away, that Go Rocket Ride is all done. But you'll watch Go Rocket Ride come back and still get second. I thought that was a very good sign. So, remember, this was a Grade 2 race, second start of his career. So I just think that this horse, the upside's there. And Howard, he was 4 points off on the buyer scale. Is Practical Move going to go up to 105 or 107 from 100? Or, we've seen some very good horses this year, 3-year-olds stay the same or regress a few points, right? So what happens if Practical Move goes down to a 98? Now Go Rocket Ride and start number 3 has to go up 2 points. I really, now I don't know how much difference in the price there's going to be. Go Rocket Ride was actually favored last time, which was, I didn't really, I wasn't planning on that. But I'll tell you, I think the 3 has a very good shot here. And I think the 5, you and I both mentioned the 5 on our short list of potential Derby winners the other night on the show. And I think we mentioned the 3 as well. So, I do think it's one of those two.
I think there's interesting to look at the incremental pace. I think there's some things to glean from this, Paul. First of all, Skinner ran a very big middle quarter here. This is sort of his move to get closer to the race. This was, his third quarter time was faster than Go Rocket Ride and Practical Move. But what impressed me quite a bit, and you talked about it, Practical Move finished in 30.68. That's a 5/16 time. But Go Rocket Ride really wasn't that far behind there, 31.27. And as you mentioned, Paul, Go Rocket Ride had every right to finish 4th or 5th in that race. Right. I thought he was done, and then he rebroke and re-rallied after getting swung out a little bit wide also. Meanwhile, Practical Move got a perfect trip up the inside. So Go Rocket Ride's got a little mage in him to me, Paul, like a very talented, lightly raced horse. I actually think he's faster early than Mage. The problem, though, in this race for me, and the reason why I didn't put Go Rocket Ride on top, is I just think there's a lot of speed in this race. Now, maybe Go Rocket Ride can overcome that. Dazzle Me Silver is not going to be like a dead send, but he does have some speed on the inside. The one that can really mess up Go Rocket Ride to me is this horse that has absolutely zero business. I'm sorry, the connections, Paul. The 4 has no business being in this race. I think it's completely, utterly ridiculous. I mean, there's a Calbred 6.5 furlong 3-year-old race they could put this horse in. And by the way, I don't think 1 in a million would have a chance in that race either, which is on this card. We talked about Derby fever. It just, I don't know, Paul. I guess it shouldn't bother me, but I have a feeling that Hector Barros is just going to send crazy. And if you're a fan of Go Rocket Ride, that's going to be a major problem. So I think that's going to be an issue. I've got Practical Move on top, Paul. And this is the most unsexy pick I've had in a while. But you know what? He's going to sit off the speed. I think he's going to get another great trip, Paul. Distance, at least at this point, doesn't seem to be a problem. I would love to pick against Practical Move. I just don't see it in this spot. I think he's going to get a perfect trip again, and I think he's going to win. And if he's going to lose, I like Skinner. I like that move that he made late, Paul. He was goofy with his lead change. It was a slow pace. You think I'm going to let John Sheriff beat me in this kind of race? Hell no. I think he's the best closer in here, Paul, and I think Skinner is fascinating. I wouldn't even be completely shocked if the 8 coming in, from Japan, this Mandarin Hero, finds a way to clunk up for 3rd or 4th if the race falls apart a bit. It would not surprise me. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of speed in this race, Paul. And then the last thing is, what do you do with National Treasure, Paul?
I didn't put him in my top 3. I mean, you got to use them defensively if you're playing any type of multi-race wager. The price might be right, which is not always the case on a Baffert/Yachtine. I just thought the 5 and 3 were better. I thought Reincarnate, he lost to Reincarnate, who I thought came back and ran poorly last weekend, despite the on the board finish. I agree with you on Skinner. You know, you got two guys in this race, Howard, Sheriffs and Mandela, who do not fall under the Derby fever syndrome.
No.
And now here's this analogy. The horse that knocked me out of the Gulfstream pick 5, Affirmative Lady. I believe that was the horse that they had run as a maiden in graded stake, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Well, look at Skinner. John Sheriffs, who is notoriously patient. The horse runs 5th in a maiden race at Del Mar, puts the horse in the grade 1 Del Mar Futurity, and then undeterred by that, he runs a good 3rd, puts him in the grade 1 American Pharaoh at Santa Anita, and then, you know, that doesn't go well, and then finally breaks his maiden. But for Sheriffs to show that type of confidence in a young horse, similar to Graham Motion with Affirmative Lady, and, you know, look at Skinner. He's running with Cave Rock a couple of times. He did close. You mentioned that was kind of a speed flow last time. Skinner is the one who closed. So, yeah, I would have no issue with anyone who likes Skinner here.
Yeah, I hate to pick Practical Move. I have nothing against the horse or the connections. It's just not a creative pick, but I think it's just going to sit a great trip. I think he's going to win, Paul, and I think he's going to be a total play against the Derby. I think he's going to have 3 great trips in a row, and he's going to be 3rd choice in the Derby at like 7 or 8 to 1 and be a horrible pick. That's just my prediction as of right now. Paul, let's get on to race 10. It's going to be fascinating. I thought that might be a breakout race, the Santa Anita Derby. We're going to see, because we're still waiting for someone to really break out. Maybe it'll be Saturday at the Great Race Place. We'll have to see. Let's go on to race 10. Again, this is race 10. Okay, we're covering only grade stake races on this podcast. Race 10 is Monrovia. It's a grade 3. They're going down the hill. Love these down the hill races. This occurs at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Of course, it's part of the late pick 5, $200,000. Fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. Paul, these are a lot of familiar names. We've seen some of these horses run a decent amount, especially down the hill. I got to be honest, I have no idea who the favorite's going to be in this race. I wouldn't want to guess. I suppose maybe it's Amy C, the 8. It could be Legs Galore, the 10. This is a really tough race, Paul. I'm not even sure. Let's go. You see the picks on the bottom of the screen. Paul and I and Pete. Wow, we're all going with the Great Britain bred Phil D'Amato. There it is, that connection. Rispoli on the ride, the number 8, Amy C. What do you like about this horse, Paul?
Well, one thing about this down the hill course, Howard, and, you know, thank God they're back on it. They were off it for quite a while when they had difficulties out there. It really, experience on it is a factor. And if you have good experience, so the horses in this race, Amy C is 3 for 3 down the hill. Legs Galore is 2 wins out of 3 starts down the hill. And then there's another horse, Tom's Beauty, is 1 for 1 down the hill. Another factor is, you know, it's 6.5 furlongs, but I think we've talked about this before, Howard. Because of the structure of it, it does play almost as much as a route as it does a sprint. So cutbacks tend to do fairly well. And that's one of the reasons why I put the 3 in there, canoodling, cutting back from 2-turn turf races at Santa Anita. But yeah, why do I like Amy C? Well, we talked about the 3 for 3 down the hill. We've talked about D'Amato being the West Coast version of Chad Brown. If it's a turf race, you better look at his horses 2 or 3 or 4 times. This horse is coming off 3 out of 4 wins. You know, no reason why from the 8 doesn't get a good trip. We've talked about Rispoli earlier in the show. Legs Galore is probably going to go from out there. Legs Galore only knows she knows one way to go. Yeah. This 8 could kind of just draft inside of her. Or outside, she'll have her choice, because Legs Galore, I think, just is a dead scent here. So, yeah, I think
both have her second, by the way. I'm assuming neither one of us are worried about the layoff. And the only other speed I found in this race, at least early speed, at least I thought, and by the numbers at least, is the number 1 Elm Drive, who does not look that impressive on paper. And again, we've talked about this many times, and anyone that bets Santa Anita knows this. The outside's actually the better post than the inside. So Elm Drive is going to have to go all the way to the outside to cause issues with leg galore. If legs galore does not get the lead and Vasquez just crazy sends on this one, that's going to hurt that's going to hurt legs galore quite a bit. I would be shocked if legs galore does not have the lead at the quarter mile pole, unless she's just not ready off the layoff, or she's just not as good as she used to be.
Yeah, and the other thing, Howard, I don't know about you, but I went looking for turf pedigree, and I didn't find a lot of it on the one, to be frank.
No.
It's ditto the two, who does have a second on it, at least has run on it and ran a pretty good second. But the one who's never run on it, Mo Heyman, by Mo Heyman out of an Indian Charlie mare.
Yeah.
I just, they shipped this. Billy Koch and his little red feather folks. In fact, I think Billy was at Saratoga. I think I met Billy that weekend. He was up for the that was Whitney Day, I believe, the day of the test. And they shipped this horse across the country to run in the test, which was a very confident move. And that really didn't work out. And then in a much easier spot at Pimlico, really did not run well. It's been on the shelf since. So I'm not sure about the reasoning behind the turf, but I did not like this horse at all.
Yeah, there's not too much to say about this race because we don't have morning lines, and also there's a lot of horses that are relatively similar. You've got the three Canoodling, who I took a look at. I'm going to use her defensively. She's got back numbers. She's getting back, but she was on the turf before. This layoff is scary to me. That's a long layoff, and Pipey is not great off of layoffs, but he does get Juan Hernandez, and I like turnback. So there's a lot of things I like about Canoodling other than the layoff. I've got the 6 and 3rd, Kirsten Bosch, who I think is a little bit interesting here. If there is some pace, I love Kimura. I love Sadler. She's been improving on dirt and gets back to turf where she's been decent. It's sort of like a weirdo kind of fresh face kind of look for me, but I don't love this horse necessarily. Pete's got the 4, Tom's Beauty, who I took a look at, but seems a little bit slow, but maybe she's an up-and-comer. I don't know, Paul. There's a lot of ways you can go in this race. It'd be nicer to have morning lines because we probably would have a little bit of a stronger idea, but we all like Amy C. I would take Amy C at, 3-1. I don't think I'd bet her less than that, though, Paul, on the win end for me.
Yeah, I don't look at this race as being a race where I'm going to be making a win bet. Hopefully I'm alive in multis and I could just watch it or maybe play a few exactas. But
there you go.
Yeah, I don't think a win bet is going to be on the agenda in this race.
All right, well, let's go to the last race that we are going to be looking at on the show today. And again, thank you very much for joining us. Again, any comments you have on anything we're talking about, please put those below the video player, as of course this is a taped show. But we'd love to hear what you have to say because these are some very nice stake races. The last one we're going to talk about is, of course, the last graded stakes of the day. As I go ahead and show our picks at the bottom of the screen. This is the first time, by the way, Paul is seeing these picks, and it's 3 old fillies, Paul. And I'll tell you what, last week worked out pretty well for me. I had the Gulfstream long shot. I had the 4. Or is it 2 weeks ago? I'm drawing. Is it 2 weeks ago now? Why am I drawing a blank? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Sorry. 2 weeks ago, I snuffed out the 4 that we talked about. Affirmative Lady at a bit of a price that really helped me in that pick 5. And that was last week. Why am I having a brain crash?
Last week.
Last week.
It's because we're on the air every day, 8 hours a day, so you get confused. I understand.
I'm going to be a little wacko again because, again, these 3-year-old fillies, Paul, I don't know. Here's the field for the Santa Anita Oaks. Grade 2, $400,000, a big prep for the Kentucky Oaks. They're going a mile and a 16th, of course, only for the 3-year-old girls. You see the field here. Mandela has 2. I believe that's the only repeat trainers in this race. Yes, it is. I'm pretty confident. Actually, I don't know. I think the morning line favorite is going to be number 5, Feza.
Oh, definitely.
Baffert.
Oh, okay, definitely.
For Baffert and Pratt, we agree. And where do we have Feza? Paul has Feza second. People are wondering, Howard, where's Feza? Oh, that's right. the big El Tosso for me. Pete's got her second. Pete's got her second. As I bring us on screen, Paul, these 3-year-old fillies have just been a cluster all year long. We're going to talk about Clearly Unhinged, who ran a big race. You've got Clearly Unhinged on top, so let's go right to her. This may be a superstar. We don't know. I'm going to show the PPs right now. Clearly Unhinged ran a monster race, first time out in a maiden special weight, broke from the rail, got an 89 buyer, won by 3 1/4, and not only did she win, but she beat a very well-meant horse in Conquistar, who you can see ran a big race for Baffert first time, and then got trounced by Clearly Unhinged. And I think Conquistar was clearly unhinged in that race, right, Paul?
Well, I'll tell you what Conquistar was 1-5, Howard.
She was. Talk about the horse you have on top for Michael McCarthy and JJ Hernandez. A fantastic combination there.
Yeah, and if you watch the race, Howard, let's watch it. Broke from the rail under Johnny V, but I didn't think, it wasn't. I didn't think anyway. It was a case of Johnny desperate. Now he's riding him okay here, but once they straighten out here, once he gets to the lead, you see his hands are relaxed right there, and I just thought I looked at the horse you and Pete picked, the 6, who also won by a lot. I was going to pick one of them. I'm definitely against Faza here, and I just landed on this one. I think the upside is as you said, could be a superstar. We won't know quite yet, but
how do you like this finish? She was professional. We don't know about the distance, but I mean, it doesn't look like she's going to have any distance issues.
Yeah, he's not exactly, she's extending, and he's just riding her, And as you mentioned, that horse, whatever her name is, Conquistar,
that
was
here's the gallop out. Any concern here at all that she gets passed on the gallop out? Or is that just Howard being Howard?
Yeah, it's Howard being Howard. Yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They just shut her down.
And Conquistar, but that was Conquistar's first race. Howard came back and got beat again, but ran a second by 9 lengths. The second time out, went off at 3-5. Went off 2-5 the second time out and got beat again. But obviously, a horse with some type of promise. If he's being bet like that, $825,000 horse. But yeah, I just think that the upsides here. I do think. I mean, they're going to bet the 3 off that big number. They're going to bet your 6 off her big number. But
you think
a little bit, yeah. So. Well, 16.5, Howard. People are going to see the 16.5, and
I guess
I don't think there's any question that a Bob Baffert, Michael Lund Peterson 4-for-4 horse is clearly going to be the favorite.
Paul, I just want to make sure, are your numbers correct on the bottom? Because you said you were against Faza, but I
was on the they are on the win end. I didn't. Well, okay. You know what? You know why I have her second, Howard? Because this race could almost be a non-winners of one other than. This is an embarrassing grade too. There are 4 or 5 horses coming out of maiden wins. Now you and I picked one of them, but this is about as weak of an Oaks type race as you're going to get, which fits in perfectly with the 3-year-old filly plot this year.
So you're
my Faza pick was
win end.
Yeah, it just I think Faza is going to be better than the other non-winners of one other than horses. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I picked your horse third, didn't
I? No. Oh no!
I didn't.
You sent me the 8.
No, I like this 8. You know what? I thought this 8. If you watched the race, I'm sure you did. This 8. Considering Faza is going to be the favorite, this 8 ran. I thought okay. Now got beat on the square.
The end of the race. Faza was the 6, and then Tell Me No Lies, who I thought last year was a bit interesting, but I just couldn't catch. Is the 2. So I'll just go to the end of the race here, and you can talk about it.
Yeah, he ends up. I think he just ends up getting, wide on this turn coming up here. Jock's not moving that much. I don't know if he was maybe thinking an opening might occur inside, but he does have to go. He's out in the 5 or 6 path here, and again, he gets beat on the square by Fazer, but 2 lengths, 2 and a quarter lengths. He's clearly the best of everyone else, and he's certainly not she's certainly not picking up Fazer, and Fazer extending, but I thought the 8 ran okay there, and again, I think it's clearly a 4-horse race, and I didn't put you. I was down to the 8 or the 6 for third, and I put the 8.
I have a pretty strong opinion in this race, Paul, and my strong opinion is I just do not like the lower price morning line favorites, who I'm assuming are going to be the 3 and 5 in here. I know I have the 3 second, but in terms of the win end, let me talk about the horse I like. Window shopping, Paul, is the kind of horse that usually I am totally against. This nice fig in an off the turf race, look, she won by 16. Howard, look out! This field was awful. Okay, I don't mean to be too direct here, but Pete's got the source on top too, which surprised me, but I was happy to see it. This is not a good field. You look at the buyers here. These horses ran okay, but that's because these were turf horses, and then they run to dirt, and they can't run at all. So none of these horses wanted to be on dirt. They didn't run well on dirt. So you're wondering, Howard, why are you going with this horse? There's a few reasons. First of all, I love the way she did it. Now, again, I know she didn't face a lot, Paul, but she made a bold move up the inside, and I like the way she moves. She's the 2. She doesn't look like, to me, a turf horse. Now, I know Mandela, of course, knows, what he's doing here, but window shopping's on the inside, not taking a lot of dirt, by the way, which might be a negative Saturday. She's taking no dirt because there's no one on the inside here. But watch this move. She's moving like a dirt horse to me, and you're going to see a pretty aggressive move here up the inside. And I know she didn't face much. Okay, fine. But this is still 22.74 and 46.63, Paul. This is not a slow pace. They are moving, and she makes this aggressive move up the inside. And then from there on, it's pretty much over. But this is not like a big high knee action. She looks like she can handle the dirt just fine. And I mean, she wins easily. And maybe part of the reason why her buyer, she's wrapped up. She's wrapped up. Okay, right here, she's pretty much wrapped up. I mean, I don't know how much faster she could have gone. She's completely wrapped up here. She could have probably gotten an 80 buyer or something. I don't know. Anyway, I like the way she did it. And here's my other angle, Paul. We talked about Mandela, right? Do you really think Richard Mandela is going to throw a nice filly that costs $700,000 into a grade 1 stakes race 3 weeks after a main specialweight win if he didn't think this was not a special horse? I say absolutely not. The intent here for me, Paul, is one of the biggest reasons, because Mandela is very patient. He must think this horse is very special. I also like the fact that she has a work, Paul, in between her last win in this race. To me, that matters. He's got the 1 in here who I don't like at all. I think Smith is going to send from the inside and ensure there's a fast pace. And I think window shopping can very easily sit mid-pack on the outside in the clear and go by. That's my top pick. Feza, she doesn't do anything for me, Paul. She's 1 pace. She's meh. She's just very meh, and she's going to be 2-1. And now you're 3. Could absolutely win this race. I don't know how good she is, but there's other speed in the race, and I think the 1 is going to show speed. This 2 might show speed. Are they as fast as the 3? Probably not, but this 3's got a lot to prove to me, Paul. So I know I'm rambling on for a little bit here, but clearly unhinged. If she wins, I would not be shocked. I think she's a play against based on the situation. And Feza just doesn't do much for me. And I even got the 4 in third, who's another long shot I like a little bit. Did you see the breeding of the 4, Paul? This Clickish? She looks a little slow on paper, like Affirmative Lady did. How about Bellamy Road on the dam side and Bernardini on the sire side? This smells 2 turns all over the place, Paul. I know she's slow, but is it not possible this race completely collapses and this horse picks up the pieces late? I don't know. there's something about this race again, Paul, that stinks. And perhaps your 3's going to win. Maybe Feza is just better than we think. I'm going with Prices.
Yeah, back to your 6th, though, Howard. You mentioned Mandela, but my counter to that would be, why is he starting a $700,000 horse on turf to begin with?
2 turns.
Right.
The
Yeah.
horse wants 2 turns, just like what was that horse we talked about earlier? Was it it was the horse at Oaklawn. Remember the 2 horse at Oaklawn for Aspen?
Oh, yeah.
It actually ran pretty well. Started on turf. We didn't know why, right? Remember that horse?
Yeah. But
that's what I think. But it's a fair point. You're making
what would be interesting, Howard, is if that last race didn't come off the turf, and this horse won as impressively, would she ever have seen the dirt? Right.
It's a great question.
Again, you got a horse, a 3-year-old filly in this year of all years. You don't have to have Oaks fever to want to get on the trail. You just have to have like a mild temperature. Yeah,
4
you
legs
could be like,
and the accurate female body.
Yeah, you could be like 98.9 instead of 98.6, right?
There you go.
And in fairness, the American Pharaohs run lights out on turf, so I get that. But I'm just saying, $700,000, you're probably thinking dirt with this horse.
The
but
dam side is definitely dirt too, by the way. Delightful Joy was a nice dirt horse.
Right,
who ran in New York, you might remember. So there's dirt breeding on the dam side also. So, and 2 turns. That just
that's my point. That's my question. Why I know that. That's why I'm wondering why they started on turf.
I think this horse just wants long, Paul. That's my guess.
I'll tell you one thing. I like either of those 2 better than Feza. And Feza, as you say, could grind out a win. I'll tell you what, if Feza does manage to win this race, there'll be a horse I will be tripping over myself to bet against in the Kentucky Oaks.
I agree.
So, because she will get 5 for 5 with all those tourists betting that day. She will get bet like no tomorrow.
Let's talk about our special plays, Paul. Now, we don't have
whose idea was that? Was it a good idea that was?
That's why why do you think I got you on this show, Paul Howard? There's no pick 4s. There's no pick 5s from us. We will say, though, Paul, you can find some picks possibly in our power picks, so people should be looking out for that. But you have to subscribe, though, of course, to our power picks in order to see that for Santa Anita. Our special plays will be $40 doubles. Doubles worth $40. Your double worth $40 is going to link race 10 to race 11. You're doing a $20 double, 8-10 with 3, who is clearly unhinged. Just very briefly, your thoughts on that double selection.
Yeah, I wanted to beat Feza. I think Feza will be the favorite, as we talked about. So, and those, I do think those are the 2. In my opinion, those are the 2 most logical in that race. So, those aren't huge combinations, but I do think if you can beat Feza, and I know the 3's going to get bet off the 89, maybe over bet. So maybe I won't be playing this, but if I were going to play, I would try to hit the double without Feza, and maybe grab like a $40 double and pick up 400 and move on.
Because of the respect for Michael McCarthy and the 89 buyer, Paul, I got a feeling clearly unhinged is going to be pretty close to the same price as Feza. I really do. I think it's going to be like 9. I really do. I think it's going to be like 9-5, 2-1 kind of situation, but we'll have to see. My special play, I'm going to go to race 5. I'm going to play a $10 double 2x2. I'm going to go 2-6 with 5-7. Race 5 was the turf race. I'm going to go with Dicey Mochara, and I'm going to go with Master of Foxhounds. Then I'm going to link that up in the San Felipe with Practical Joke and the number 7 Skinner. And what I'm going to do is a Dutch double. We've talked about this on the show without getting a lot of details because we're going to move on to Pete's here. I'm going to weigh them different amounts. So I'm going to see what the doubles are, and I'm going to play $40 worth of doubles so that no matter which combination comes in, Paul, it'll pay the same amount. What is it going to pay? Probably at least 200, I would say. That'd be my goal. Try to get 5 or 6 to 1 on this 2x2 double. Pete's special play is going to be also race 10 to race 11. He's doing also a $20 daily double 2x1. He's going 4-8 with 6. So he's going to go with Amy C. and that is it the 4 horse
Tom's Beauty, yes.
Tom's Beauty, who's interesting at a price, and then he's going to single the 6, the horse that I like, Window Shopping, who I think is going to be a little bit of a price in that race, maybe 5-6 to 1-ish. So I don't know if Pete would Dutch that or just play that straight, but there are our doubles. As we end the show, Paul, it's going to be a great day out Santa Anita. Like we said, they do have many other stakes. They've got some state bred stakes. I'll leave this show with one question. Will the winner of the Kentucky Derby come out of the Santa Anita Derby?
No.
I would agree with you. We'll just leave it at that. It's going to be a great race, though, and it's going to be a fantastic day of racing for sure at Santa Anita. Everyone go ahead and check out those 4 fantastic grade stakes for sure. For my wonderful co-host, Paul Haller, and this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 244 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck with your graded stakes bets at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita, this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.